4 days ago, Zelensky recently launched the offensive in Kursk, and today the true background for it has come out. Additionally, Putin issued a press release yesterday about the dramatic consequences of this attack. Let's take a look at this explosive information. Here we go. 4 days ago, the Ukrainian president unexpectedly surprised the whole world with a spontaneous counter-offensive in the Kursk region. The whole world is indeed pondering the reasons behind this dubious action, and even the allies are completely shocked. ZDF, Zweites Deutsches Fernsehen, wrote, for example, that Germany was apparently not informed. The federal government was not informed in advance about the details of the Ukrainian offensive. There would frequently be conflicting and sometimes deliberately falsified information. And, okay, so the federal government was not informed and is showing signs of irritation over Zelensky. But it's probably quite simple, because even Zelensky has now indeed understood that our federal government is truly a complete joke and is only good for two things: absolutely paying money and keeping quiet. And that's why it's not surprising that other countries and other newspapers have significantly more information about the Kursk coordination offensive than Germany, while our federal government is still in the dark and still puzzling over the background information. For example, all the Americans already read the background of this offensive already in the newspaper. The Financial Times wrote how Ukraine pulled off its biggest gamble, invading Russia. In plain terms indeed, Ukraine's biggest gamble succeeded with the invasion of Russia. We entered Russian territory for the first time on Tuesday, the 6th of August at 1 p.m., said Volodymyr. We are among the first to have entered there. Soon they encountered Russian units sitting in the forest drinking coffee, Volodymyr recalled. Then our striker drove right into their table. We killed many of them on the first day, he said, because they were indeed unarmed and did not expect us. This is the first explanation for why Ukraine was able to advance so far and achieve so many victories at the beginning of the counter-offensive. The opposing side was simply completely unprepared and also not combat ready. And now one must ask, why is that so? Why are the troops at the border not combat ready? Well, there were rumors about secret agreements between Putin and the Biden administration that the fighting should be confined to the east of Ukraine and that the northern border must not be touched. That's why there were very few soldiers and no battles there in recent years. But now, with Biden ousted and Kamala Harris in charge in the White House, these agreements with Ukraine were apparently broken and the Russians were caught with their pants down. But that's a different topic for a separate video. And agreements with the Russians? Let's read further to see what the newspaper writes about the true reasons for the counter-offensive. Is it the relief of the Eastern Front through a counterattack? No, it is not, perhaps. Or is it the destruction of critical infrastructure by the Russian army? No, that's not it either. The Ukrainian troops said their operation went as hoped. In less than a week, they advanced more than 30 kilometers into the interior of Russia and claimed to have captured about 1,000 square kilometers of territory. Volodymyr said they are currently still on their way to the regional capital, Kursk. Danis said the ultimate goal of the operation was the conquest of Russian territory. We can fight here and take their territory, and then the negotiations can begin. And we will exchange some of their lands for our country, he says. And now it gets really exciting. In the near future, we will be exchanging lands in exchange for our country. The counteroffensive is therefore aimed at strategically capturing as much Russian land as possible in order to use it as a significantly valuable bargaining chip to reclaim their own land, thereby ultimately improving their negotiating position. Zelensky has been talking a lot about negotiations with Russia in the past few days, and he has even announced a referendum in Ukraine that would fit perfectly. The only bad thing about it is that Zelensky completely underestimated the Russian President Putin, because he gave a press conference yesterday where he clearly and unequivocally stated that negotiations are completely out of the question after this unprovoked and brutal attack, and that he will now completely and utterly flatten Ukraine. Take a look at this short clip.
Главная задача стоит, безусловно, перед Министерством обороны. Выбить противника с наших территорий и совместно с пограничной службой обеспечить надежное прикрытие госграниц. Очевидным становится, что теперь ясно, что почему киевский режим отказывался от наших предложений вернуться к мирному плану урегулирования, так же, как и к предложениям заинтересованных и нейтральных посредников. Судя по всему, противник при помощи своих западных хозяев, он выполняет их волю, и руками украинцев Запад с нами воюет. Так вот, судя по всему, противник стремится к улучшению своих переговорных позиций в будущем. Но о каких переговорах вообще может идти речь с людьми, которые без разбора наносят удары по мирным людям, по гражданской инфраструктуре, либо пытаются создать угрозы для объектов ядерной энергетики? Противник, безусловно, получит достойный ответ, а все цели, стоящие перед нами, вне всяких сомнений, будут достигнуты.
There you have it. Indeed, Putin says there is clearly nothing more to discuss with Ukraine, which assaults civilians and nuclear power plants. Ukraine will receive a decisive response to the attack on Kursk. Well, and of course one could say, hey, Putin has also attacked civilians and a nuclear power plant, but that is a completely different topic, which I will explain to you in another video. The crucial point now is that Putin has said that any negotiations are now excluded and that there will be a decisive response to the Kursk offensive. And according to insiders, this will be a massive attack on the capital, Kyiv. Even the Bild newspaper wrote last night that after the incursion in Kursk, Ukraine is expecting gigantic revenge from Putin. According to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense in the Moscow Times, preparations are being made for Russian missile strikes on the parliament and other government buildings. This is seen as a response to the significant military incursion of Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region. Russia feels the need to give a very harsh response, something gigantic, to show the world that it is almighty and that something like Kursk does not go unpunished, according to the Ukrainian informant in the Moscow Times. According to him, Russia could not only fire 4 missiles at Kyiv, but hundreds. These include cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, and this could become a major problem for our air defense. But I believe that we will be able to stop them, according to the representative of the Ukrainian military. So, my dear viewers, it could very well be that we will indeed see a hellstorm over Kyiv in the next few days. In fact, it might happen very soon. Because if Putin is humiliated as severely as in Kursk, he will undoubtedly respond to it in the same way. You surely remember the uprising of the Wagner mercenaries last year, right? Well, Putin had sworn revenge back then, and shortly after, the Wagner boss coincidentally crashed in a plane. And if Putin now vows revenge for the Kursk offensive in a significant manner, and this could be the final blow, and potentially Ukraine might then demand surrender in a dramatic way, and ultimately, what do you think about these latest findings? Feel free to write your opinion in the comments below the video.